Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could be here because in today's video, I'm going to share with you a freeze drying hack that's going to revolutionize the way you freeze dry candy. So if you like to freeze dry candy from time to time, or if you're in the freeze dried candy business space, you're going to want to stick around to the end of this video because if you do the things that we talk about in this video, you're not only going to be able to produce freeze dried candy a lot faster, but it's going to come out better and more consistent. Let me show you what you got to do.
All right, the first thing we need to do is get a sheet of corrugated plastic. This is basically the type of insulation that's on the top and on the bottom of your freeze dryer tray system. And this is going to act like an insulation. I got these sheets off of Amazon, and unfortunately during shipping, they were kind of like bent right in the middle. And so I can't really use that part. You don't want to bend them or break them in any place. See how these are all bent up like that? So that section we're not going to use, but everything else is totally usable. And what we need to do is create a couple templates. Now there are a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm going to be using a piece of cardboard, but if you want to cut the pieces directly off of the corrugated plastic, you could certainly do that. I'm going to do it this way because I don't have very many pieces of plastic and I don't want to screw them up. All right, so the first template we're going to make is for the side of our shelf system. This happens to be the 7-tray shelf system for the Stay Fresh, but the 4-tray shelf system is the exact same size, so it really doesn't matter which one you use. And I'm going to lay it on its side, square it up against the cardboard, and then just go ahead and give it a cut. Pretty simple, nothing too complex here. You can also draw it first on the cardboard and then cut it out, whatever you want to do, it's fine. But here's the first of 3 templates that we're going to make. This is going to be our side panel. And this is going to help create a hot box inside of our freeze dryer. So the issue that we have is that the heaters are literally competing against the freezer inside of our freeze dryer. And so there's this constant push and pull in the entire system, and it makes the compressor work harder, the heaters work harder, it's not very efficient. And so we need to fix that. Now I did stick this into the system to make sure that it fit, and it looked like this one little piece was tapping against the nuts on the support bar towards the back. So we're going to cut it off, and I think this is going to give us a much better fit. What I'm looking for is a very tight, flush back to front fit. Let's make sure that that cardboard cutout fits perfectly. But at this point, if you need to make any, minor tweaks or alterations, you could do that. And you do want it to be pushed in to where it's flush right up against the front. There we go. Absolutely perfect. Okay. All right. Now we need to cut the corrugated plastic, and you could choose to do one side panel on each side if you're going to do this, or you could do 2 side panels on each side. This is what your piece is going to look like, and that's perfect. This is probably sufficient. I am going to double up on each side, so we're going to have 2 on the left and 2 panels on the right, but that's more than likely overkill. I feel like you could use 1 and it would be sufficient, but anyway, we're going to be using 2. Regardless of whether you do 1 or 2, the process is exactly the same. Before you move on to each step, though, you do want to make sure that the pieces fit. So now that we have these 2 panels cut to size, I'm going to stick them both back into the machine to make sure they don't need any final adjustments, and it looks like they fit perfectly, super snug, and this is exactly what you're looking for. So both the left and the right. And if you're doing just one panel, just make sure it fits nice and snug. Let's look at the top. This is 100% optional. It does come with 1 piece of insulation. I am going to add a second piece of insulation to that just to bring a little bit more insulation to the top of the machine. I definitely think that's going to help with the freeze drying process, keep the top a little bit warmer. We're going to create a template with that same piece against some cardboard, and just like before, we're going to give it a cut. Now you don't obviously have to use cardboard, but I am going to use this template for several things, and it just made it a little bit easier. So there we have it. We've got our top piece, and these are the 2 sections. We do want to make sure that they fit comfortably before we put them together, and it looks like we are good to go. No problem there. And one final thing. Now this part is totally optional. There is 1 piece of insulation at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is add a couple more pieces of insulation at the bottom. So I'm going to take the same template from the top and create a bottom template using it. And what you do have to do differently on the bottom is create a little space on the template for the nuts that hold in those screws. But I don't think I'm going to keep those tabs. So you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and cut off those tabs, because I don't want them to be problematic later. So there we go. This is what it's going to look like now that it's finished. And this is totally optional. It already comes with 1 piece of insulation. You can add 1 more piece, or you can add 2 more pieces. I'm actually going to add 2 more pieces because it seems like we have plenty of room. And this is what it's going to look like overlaid on that bottom piece of insulation. There it is. It looks like it fits perfectly. All right, all of our templates are made. We have our side panels, top and bottom panels already cut out. And the next thing I'm going to do is glue those two pieces together. I want a nice, strong piece of insulation. These panels have a tendency to bow a little bit, and I just want to make sure that they're held together nice and strong. I'm using a Gorilla Glue spray adhesive, but any kind of spray adhesive would work. 3M makes a great product as well. And what we're going to do is spray both sides and glue them together. I'm going to do this off camera, and this is what it looks like the following day. So now most of my panels are glued, and I just wanted you to see what the finished product looked like. Both pieces are now tightly glued together, and what I did was I sprayed the two sides that we're going to be touching and then set them underneath, literally this cutting board, on a table and let them cure overnight, and this is what it looks like the next day. All right. The next step in this process is just to make sure that all of our edges are protected, and I'm going to use this foil tape to make that happen. You could probably get this at just about any hardware store. It's nothing special, and you can use as little or as much tape as you want. Just make sure that all your edges are sealed up, and this is what the end result is going to look like once you're finished. I tend to use a little bit more tape than most, but like I said, it's up to you. This piece is for the bottom, and this piece right here is for the top. And this is one of the side panels. Now, this is another thing that I like to do. Totally optional, but I do believe it helps. We want to create a really insulated hot box inside that freeze dryer. So I'm going to add more foil tape on at least one of the sides. This is going to help keep that heat inside those trays. It's also going to reduce the amount of warming that you need and reduce the amount of time that your candy needs to freeze dry. And all we're going to do is just slightly overlap the row before it. And like I said earlier, you can use as little or as much foil tape in this step as you want. I not only did one side, but I actually did both sides. And this is what the end result of my side shelves look like, totally covered in aluminum foil tape, 100% overkill. Like I said earlier, you could choose to omit this step. You could choose to do only one side, or you could do both sides. I do find that it does make that piece a little stronger if you do both sides. Let's now look at the bottom, because this is the final piece of the puzzle. We need to attach it to the shelf itself. Notice a little lip here right on the side. We have plenty of room for 2 additional sheets. Currently, it only has 1. And let's just do a quick overlay to make sure that everything is exactly the way that it needs to be. Perfect fit, no question about it. I'm loving the space that we have for those little nuts in the event that we need to remove a shelf or anything like that. We don't have a problem. And to attach this, we're basically going to have to glue the double panel I just created to the single panel that's already on it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spray both connecting panels with adhesive glue. All right, we're going to do that off camera. This is what it looks like now that I've sprayed it. So this bottom piece has a nice coat of that Gorilla Glue sprayed on top of it. And this top piece also has a nice coating of that Gorilla Glue. And I did let it get a little tacky. So you want to let it kind of get tacky for about 5 or 6 minutes before you connect the two pieces. But once that happens, pretty simple. All we're going to do is put one piece over the other. And it's not one of those immediate, bond kind of things. You can adjust it. Once I do have it in the place that I want, I'm going to take a Stay Fresh drying tray, stick it right on top. It's the perfect size. And we're going to weigh it down. I happen to have a 30-pound weight that I'm going to stick on one end and a 10-pound weight on the other side. And you don't need 40 pounds to weigh this down. I mean, you could just put something heavy on top of it. You just want to make sure that it doesn't bow at any of the points or in the center during the drying process. And the entire thing might have taken 45 minutes or an hour to dry. If your room is a little bit hotter or whatever, it dries a little bit faster. All right, now that it's done, let's see how it works. We're going to put everything into our machine. We're going to be using our 4-shelf tray. And for this particular run, we're going to be doing some Jolly Ranchers. Jolly Ranchers can be tricky. People tend to have long warming times and long drying times. And so we're going to see if what we did makes a difference. This is absolutely perfect. We've got a new and improved 3-piece insulator on the bottom. That looks absolutely beautiful. Still plenty of space for the ice ring during a normal freeze drying cycle. We now have our top piece. It is now double insulated. Loving that. Looking great. Okay, let's put in the side panels. And these should just slide in effortlessly. And look at that. Absolutely perfect on the right side. Coming in on the left. Let's give it a go. No problem. All right, there it is. If you're doing this at home, this is exactly how yours should look. Beautiful. Okay, let's reattach the rubber ring on the front, the rubber seal. And I just want to add that your side panels should be flush up against the hot box. They shouldn't be leaning to the left or the right. Let's get in a little closer. Notice how our panels are perfectly flush with the side of our tray system. This is exactly what yours should look like. Let me show you what they shouldn't look like. Notice how when we have only one panel in there, it does lean a little to the left. In this particular case, you might have to make that one panel a little bit taller so that it touches the top and the bottom of the drum. But with 2 panels, it fits perfectly flush when you just outline the very side of your shelf system like we did in the beginning to create our template. Let's warm our trays to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to start relatively low. And that's the thing about this system is you do not need to go too hot. 135, we're going to warm it for about 5 minutes. While it's warming up, we're going to go ahead and add our Jolly Ranchers. If you want to see a full video on the entire process on how we made Jolly Ranchers, let me know in the comment section below. I'll be sure to get that up for you. Let's shut it down. And 5 minutes have now passed. Our trays have been warming for a total of 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and look at the Jolly Ranchers. And this is what I want you to pay attention. At 135 for 5 minutes, look at the state of our Jolly Ranchers. When I give them a push, they are incredibly soft, almost like a caramel or a taffy. And this is exactly how you want them. Now, it's very difficult to get that at 135 under normal circumstances, but by creating a hot zone, we can do it really easy. Check that out. No problem. Let's close it down, finish up the process. A total of 7 minutes have passed at 135. We're going to turn on the pump and open the valve and let these babies do their thing. This is what they look like as they begin the process. All right, a total of 2 hours have passed, and this is what our Jolly Ranchers look like. They look absolutely amazing. We had sizes that were 1/3 cut, 1/2 cut, and 3/4 cuts, but overall, they all freeze-dried evenly. They freeze-dried consistently, and they look absolutely amazing. Once again, let me know if you want to see the entire process. Drop the comment in the comment section. But the point of this video was to show you a hack that you could do to your freeze dryer that will help you freeze dry your candy faster and, in most circumstances, better.
All right, there you have it, an incredible game-changing hack for those of you that freeze-dry candy. And just remember, those side panels are only going to go in when you're trying to create a hot box. So generally, that's when you freeze-dry candy. If you're going to be doing regular food, where you start off at really low temperatures and you have to sublimate moisture, you're not going to want to put those side panels in because the freeze dryer needs to work differently under those conditions. But if you're going to start hot, and you're going to end hot and there's not a lot of moisture in the food, then you can absolutely put those side panels in there. You're going to create a beautiful hot box and it's going to dry a lot faster. It's going to be a lot more efficient and your end product is going to be a lot more consistent. You know we got to sample that Jolly Rancher. This was 2 hours in the machine drying, preheated at 135 for 7 minutes. Let's just see how it turned out. Here we go. That is wild, light, crispy, super concentrated flavor. Now I gotta admit, the Jolly Ranchers are a little tricky, so if you make this at home and you have the hot box, you want to play with your times and temperatures based off of your geolocation. I will say that your temperature settings will almost always be lower, your drying times will almost always be shorter, and your end product is almost always going to turn out either as good or better than it did before. Don't forget, we just started a Stay Fresh group on Facebook, so if you have a Stay Fresh freeze dryer or if you're thinking about getting one, check the pinned comment. I'm going to put a link to that group. Tips, tricks, recipes. You can ask your questions. Be a part of the community experience. It's absolutely amazing. And if you want more information on the Stay Fresh freeze dryer, be sure to check the description box. I'll put a link to their website. Don't forget to use the coupon code 2GUYS to save a couple bucks off your purchase. Thanks a lot for being here. If you have any questions, you know where they go. If you enjoyed today's video or got something out of it, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.